H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys supports 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus. One-time pay, lifetime access to live classes and videos. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For free demo class, visit h2kinfosys.com.
Okay, so now let me know if you're able to see my screen. I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen. You can ping me in the chat window. Okay, so I'll quickly summarize for 5 minutes or 10 minutes what we discussed in the previous class, and then we'll get started with today's class. So okay, now so in the previous class we discussed on how to create a table. So we saw like we need to create a table using create table, and we need to give table name, for example employee, and then we saw that we need to give the column names like empid and an integer, and if the column name like emp name varchar 20. So this is how we normally create a table. And also in the previous class we saw what is a primary key. So for example, primary key is a unique identifier for a particular row of a table. So in case if we have if we have employee ID, employee name, and so employee name can, like 2 or more employees can have the same employee name. So in that case your employee ID can play the role of primary key. So primary key is a column using which you can differentiate each row of a table. So if you take employee table, employee ID will be the unique for each row. So in this case employee ID can form the primary key. So if you want to make employee ID as a primary key, you need to give like this primary key. Okay, so now the point which we discussed about primary key is, so you cannot insert null values, for primary key. So for example, when you declare this employee ID as a primary key, so when you try to insert, for example insert into employee values, and when you try to write for here like null comma if you want to give the name like Meghnad. So in this case since this employee ID is a primary key, when you try to execute this query, it will throw error because a primary key will not allow null values. Okay, and also primary key will not allow duplicate values. Since this is the column which we are using to differentiate other rows, you cannot insert duplicate values. Like for example, you cannot add 1 and then again you cannot add 1 for other employee. Like you cannot give like this. The moment you insert first record and when you try to insert the second record with the same employee ID, it will throw error. So a primary key cannot have null values. A primary key will not allow duplicate values. And yeah. Just a second, I'm getting some questions. So just a second. So all of you able to hear me? I'm getting okay, so yeah, I'm getting some message saying like not able to hear. issues with that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just saying like a primary key we cannot insert null values for a primary key, and we cannot insert duplicate values for duplicate values for a primary key. Okay, so now after that we discussed on what is a not null constraint, and then if you make a column as not null like this, if you make a column as not null, you cannot insert null values for that. So see here, first name we made it as varchar, and we made here as not null. So when you make it as not null, you cannot insert null values for first name. So but here, since last name we are making it null, so you can insert null values for last name, because some employees may have last name or may not have last name. So in that case we made this as null. So we discussed on check constraint. So for those who missed, they can go through the video, and definitely that will give the complete idea of the course what we discussed in the previous class. And also we discussed on small date time. So small date time and date time, like we have 5 variables, 5 data types for storing date and time. So those are date, so date time, and date time 2, and we have small date time. So like how we have integer, so integer or big int or tiny int. So like these are all data types which are used for storing integers, for storing numbers. So these are the data types which are used for storing date and time formats. So date will only store date if you want to store only date part of date, and time will store only the time. Date time you can store date and time together. For example, let me show you some sample code. So if you want to get the current date, you need to write select get date. So get date is a function. Get date is a function in SQL Server which will return you the current date and time. So when I execute this, you can see that. So let me connect to the database. Okay, see now when I execute this, I'm actually seeing the current date and time. So the current date is 28 May 2014 and the time is 5:50 AM. So this is what you are seeing. So when you execute it from your end, you will see the date as current your time, like 27th May evening night 8:21. Okay. So now let's see how to connect to SQL Server. So I'll close this window and I'll tell you how to connect again. So let me close this. So once you install SQL Server, so all of you, when you are done with the installation of SQL Server, with the steps which I mentioned in the link which I sent you. Okay, so I'll just tell quick summer. I'll just tell how to install SQL Server. That is a common mistake which students are doing now. So whatever you have SQL Server, go to Control Panel. So if you are seeing any issues with installation of SQL Server, go to Control Panel and then go to Programs and Features. So you need to uninstall that. So you need to go to Programs and Features. You need to select this and then uninstall those whatever you see. For example, if you see here, I'm seeing like this SQL Server 2008 R2 or whatever you are seeing SQL Server, try to uninstall them. So right click on them, right click and uninstall completely. You should not be seeing anything related to SQL Server 2008. So when you do it for this one, when you uninstall for SQL Server 2008 R2 64-bit, so this I'm telling for those who are having issues with SQL Server, so they need to uninstall this and do a complete reinstall. So right click on this and uninstall this. Once you are done with uninstalling complete all the components of SQL Server, so go to the link which we provided in the welcome email, or let me ping in this chat window. So you need to go to database testing and welcome email, and inside this we have given the link for installing. So So you need to go. I'm just telling how to install. So click on this link which we sent. Okay, so you need to copy this, and I'm just giving the link for all of you. So have a look at this link. Okay, so this is the link which you need to download. So you need to click on that link and then click on this download button, and then if your computer is, as mentioned in the document which I sent, if your computer is 32-bit computer, you need to select these two, and if your computer is 64-bit, you need to select these two. So my computer is 64-bit, so what I did, I just selected this SQL Server Express x64, and then I selected SQL Server Management Studio x64. So select those two, and then do not run these two. So when you select those two, you will see here what are the you selected. So I mentioned in the document, select only those components depending on your computer, whether it's 32-bit or 64-bit. So once you select both of them, click on next, and don't run this. So you just save it in your desktop somewhere. So now if you see here, you don't run this. Okay, so the common mistake which students do is they will click on this run. So when they click on run, what happens when you click on run is the softwares might not install sequentially. See, now it is showing Management Studio. So I don't want to install Management Studio first. I want to install SQL Express first. So this is the sequence which you need to install. You need to install SQL Express, and then you need to install SQL Management Studio. Okay, so sometimes students do a common mistake, like they will install this and they will try to install this. So when you do that way, it will not work for you. So you have to install SQL Express first, and then you have to install Management Studio. Okay, so if you're having 64-bit, install this and then install Management Studio. So for that, what you need to do is you need to click on this one and do save as. Okay, so I repeat here, you need to click on this one and this one, and you need to save it. Okay, just click on save as, and then you can save it somewhere in the desktop. You can save it somewhere in the desktop. Similarly, you save the other file. Okay, so when you save both the files somewhere in the desktop or somewhere, then you go to that folder. You go to that folder and execute both of them. See, this is also there. And once you save it, once you save both of them, first you need to execute. This one. First, you need to right click on this file and run as administrator. Right click on this file when you save it in the desktop or in some folder. Right click on this and run as administrator. Okay. So is my voice breaking or is it clear for all of you? Is my voice is breaking or is it clear? Okay. Okay, so that is about installing. So I just quickly summarize for those who have issues with SQL Server installation. Go to Control Panel and uninstall all the softwares related to SQL Server, and then come back to this link. Click on this link and don't run those softwares when you are downloading. So download them into some folder and save it into the desktop or somewhere, and then run one by one. So execute the first one. You need to execute SQL Express first, and then you need to execute Management Studio. Okay, and then you should be able to install successfully. So do these steps, and if you face any issues, you can just let me know. Okay. You need to click on next. So when you run that software, right, you need to click on next like that. So until it says finish, you need to do next. Okay. So finally it will tell finish, and when you are done with this first one, up to finish, and then it will take around 15 minutes to install first one, and then you start the installation for the second one. second one will take around 10 minutes to install. So overall it will take around half an hour to install both the softwares. Okay, now let's go to how to connect to SQL Server. So just click on all programs and you will see Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 and click on this SQL Server Management Studio. So when you click on this SQL Server Management Studio, it will ask you to So here you need to select Windows Authentication. So select Windows Authentication and then click on Connect. Okay, so now when I click on Connect, so that's all. When I click on Connect to SQL Server, so here I created a database called DBT 24th May batch. So you need to click on New Query. So for example, if I'm disconnected again, I can simply click on Connect. So I can click on this. For example, if I got disconnected, if you leave for half an hour or 1 hour, it will get disconnected. So what you can do is again the same thing. Click on Start All Programs, and then you need to go to Visual Studio R2, and then you can open Management Studio, and you can connect. Okay, or you can simply click on this button. You can simply click on this button to connect. So what I need to do, I just need to click on this, and then I need to select Windows Authentication, click on Connect. Okay, and then go to Databases and create a database. So in the previous class we created a database called DBT 24th May. So you need to create that database. So this is how you need to create a database. So create database name, for example, dummy1. So this is how we need to create a database. Create database dummy1. So when you create this, when you execute this, so now when you refresh this databases, right click on this, refresh it, you can see that there is a database called dummy1. Okay, like that in the previous class I have created a database called DBT 24th May batch. Okay, now I'm getting a question saying like, what is SQL Server authentication? Okay, so in SQL Server we have two types of authentication modes. One is Windows authentication and the other one is SQL Server authentication. So while installing, all of you, when you click on next while installing, you would have selected SQL Server authentication, I mean Windows authentication. So Windows authentication doesn't require a password because when you log into a computer, then you are going to log into SQL Server. So when you select Windows authentication, that means you are authenticated user by Windows. System has already authenticated you. Using that system, you are able to connect to SQL Server. So when you select Windows authentication here, you don't need to enter the password. So when I select Windows authentication, I don't need to enter the password. But when I select SQL Server authentication, for example, I am the sysadmin. So what I need to do, I can create another login. So let's try to create another login. So now what I'll do here is I'll click on security. So you see a folder called security. So here you're seeing a folder called security. So in this, what I'll do is I'll click on security tabs, logins. Now I'll right click on this and create a new login. Okay, so I'm going to create a new login now. Let's see how to create it. All of you please see if you can understand. I just expanded the security here, and then click on login. Okay, so some of your, is my screen is frozen or you're able to see as and when I'm explaining? Okay, fine, yeah. So I'm just saying how to create a login. So now you need to expand this. So you need to expand this security and you need to click on expand this logins, and now you can right click on this and click on create new login. So when you click on this new login, okay, here I need to give the login name. For example, let me give the login name as so when you are working for a company, you will have the login names as per, so every user will have a login name. So when you are selecting Windows authentication, you need to give the login name, Windows login name. Okay, but when since I'm going to, you got it. So Windows authentication, you have to give the login name of your Windows system. So for example, if you see here, start control panel,